In Chapter 12, we're going to discuss the capital budgeting process. Now, when we talk about capital budgeting, what we're really talking about is the system by which the firm chooses new projects that it wants to undertake. It's the process of identifying potential projects, evaluating whether or not they're likely to be profitable, and then finally making adjustments as we gather new information, even after the project has been undertaken. The capital budgeting decision involves planning of expenditures, typically for a year or longer. And the reason we use a year cutoff is it's somewhat arbitrary. But having said that, when we talk about long-term projects, the time value of money becomes of significant importance, and there's greater risk involved. The capital budgeting process requires a lot of planning and coordinations between different departments. The finance function typically involves interacting with people across the entire business. So in the budgeting process, we may need to estimate what the revenues are going to be from a particular project. Well, to do that, we're probably going to need to go talk to people in the marketing department or in sales. If we're thinking about building a new plant, for example, the engineers are going to be taking bids, making estimates of what the costs are to build that particular plant. If we have to build a building, we might actually need to talk to an architect. Sometimes the information that we need is available in-house. In some cases, we might need to actually hire consultants to come in to produce information. So the finance function really has to reach out and gather information across the entire business when capital expenditure decisions are being made. One of the problems that arises in capital budgeting is that there are a lot of uncertainties. The farther you look into the future, the greater the uncertainties are going to be. Those uncertainties are going to surround things like, what are the cash flows going to be? What are the inflows, the revenues going to be from a potential project? What will the costs be? Particularly the going forward costs. The cost to get started might be fairly clear, but estimating what costs we're going to incur 2 or 3 years in the future is a lot more difficult. We're going to have to make estimates of how long the project will last, what the product life might be. If interest rates change, that's going to impact our weighted average cost of capital. So having some basis for judging future interest rates becomes important. The economy might be in contraction, it might be booming. That's obviously going to have an impact after the fact on whether or not it turns out we made a good decision. And there's also the possibility, after we spend our money in this capital budgeting process, that new technologies come along and make our product obsolete. All of these uncertainties make decision making very difficult. Now, that's the hard part of operating in the real world. Now, we're in the classroom, and we're going to sweep a lot of these uncertainties under the rug. We're going to pretend that we've already made some assessments of what the likely outcomes are in many cases, and we're going to deal a lot less with these uncertainties. But it's worth knowing that in the real world, these uncertainties make life complicated and make the process that we're going to describe here difficult to implement. That doesn't mean because things are hard we don't do it. It's just that we're going to have to do it in an environment that won't be as clean as the textbook examples that we're going to use right now. That's very often the case. Let's look at the big picture for a moment, at sort of the administrative process. This will detail in very broad, sweeping terms what we're attempting to do, or what the steps we're going to go through in this process. The first is the firm has to seek out and discover potential investment opportunities. In some cases, the seeking out process will be very formalized. For example, when McDonald's builds a new restaurant, that's in step in a capital budgeting process in which they started out by looking for sites to build a new restaurant. And there's a very formal process within McDonald's. They know what sort of information they need to gather about traffic count, income levels in the area, that sort of thing. But they've built thousands of them, and so they have a process for figuring out where to build the next one. In other cases, the discovery of these opportunities might be outside of sort of the normal comfort zone. Consider an Amazon.com that decided to produce the Kindle. They haven't done anything like that before, but they saw an opportunity to create an ebook reader, and they launched that. Now that's very different than building restaurant number 7,000. It's something very new, has a great deal more risk involved, but in both cases there had to be some effort to look for an investment opportunity. Most of what we're going to do after this, we assume that we've identified this, but make no mistake about it, it's an important, maybe the most critically important element of success. The other things we're going to do are more mechanical. Once you have the mechanics in place, this one is one of the key elements of actually successfully executing in a capital budgeting sense. After we've identified a potential opportunity, we need to collect data to analyze whether or not the opportunity makes sense. Again, this data is likely to come from all over the organization, from the marketing department, from engineering, maybe from human resources. We might have to buy data that we don't have. We might need to hire consultants to help generate data so that we can make better decisions. And that, in fact, is the third step in the process. We evaluate the data using the tools that we're going to develop in this chapter, and then we have to make a decision. The decision might be, yes, we should build that new restaurant, that location. The decision might be, no, it doesn't make sense. The decision might be, well, not right now. Maybe we need to wait for some time to pass so that we can collect some more data, and then we can make a decision again. So that decision-making process can come down to a yes, a no, or a maybe. For right now, we're going to focus on the yeses and the nos, and we'll worry about maybe at a later time. After the project has been accepted, assuming we undertake a project, we're going to want to reevaluate after the decision has been made, periodically reevaluate, make adjustments to our plan, also reevaluate the process. Are we getting the right data that we need to make the right decisions so that we can make better decisions going forward?